Hi y'all, Susan here. Today I'll be showing you how I made this darling encouragement card featuring glittery gold embossed flamingos and cute sentiment. Alright, let's get started. So the first thing that I did was that I attached the printed paper to the pink card topper. The paper is from the Tickle and Tweet paper pad by the Paper Studio, which I purchased at Hobby Lobby. Next, I took the peach paper and I'm going to stamp on the flamingos from the Have Faith stamp set by Stampabilities. I purchased it at Hobby Lobby as well. So I'm going to center the stamp onto the cardstock the best that I can. Try to make it even in the center. Once I've got that centered, I'm going to have it grabbed by the Stamparatus. Now I'm going to mask off the saying on the stamp with washi tape. And then I'm going to press on VersaMark ink. Because I don't want this sentiment on there. I just want the flamingo. So once I got the ink on there, I'm going to remove the masking and I'm going to stamp the image onto the peach paper. Now I'm going to take the pink paper, or the peach paper I should say, and I'm going to sprinkle on some gold glitter embossing powder. And then I'm just going to pour off the excess. Tap it really good. I'm going to just pour the excess back into the container for another use. Now I'm going to get a small paintbrush and I'm going to brush off the excess embossing powder. I want to have nice clean lines. I'm going to brush off any extra. Next, I'm going to use my heat gun to melt the embossing powder. It turns into a beautiful gold with a glittery shimmer to it. It's really, really pretty. So next I'm going to repeat that process twice more until I have 3 flamingos embossed on the peach cardstock. Again, I want to center that flamingo in the area so they're evenly spaced across the peach cardstock. And always remember on each stamp to mask off the sentiment that is on that particular stamp, because we don't want that to show up. We just want the flamingos. I'm having a little trouble there getting the masking on. I'm going to stamp it again with my VersaMark ink pad. Remove the masking, and then we're going to stamp the image. We're going to remove it from the Stamparatus again, and we're going to pour the gold embossing powder over the top. and then we're just going to mark off any of the difference. And then we're going to brush off any of the excess. And then we're going to heat it. I'm going to put a little bit more. There's a kind of a bald spot, so I put a little bit more of the embossing powder there. And now I'm going to heat it with the heat gun again, so that the embossing powder melts. Y'all have to let me know. I usually do a quicker video where the filming is shortened. I did it full length this time with no speed, without speeding it up. So you have to let me know if you like it at the fast speed or if you like it better at the slow speed. I'm kind of thinking there's a lot of quiet space in there that it might get a little boring, so let me know. And if you like the faster speed better, I will go back to doing those. So again, I'm going to stamp the flamingo. We have a third flamingo that we're going to stamp on there. We're going to put the stamp on there, try to get it positioned evenly with the others and spaced accordingly. Once we've gotten that, we'll just pick it up with the top of the Stampabilities. We'll mask off the sentiment, and then we're going to go back with the VersaMark ink it, and then we're going to just stamp it right next to the other two flamingos. Last one. We've stamped it. I'm going to take that over there and have it where it's cleaned on my stamp chamois. I'm going to cover the final flamingo with the gold embossing powder. Tap off the extra. Pour the rest back into the jar for another use. And then I'm just going to go in there with my small paintbrush and remove any excess embossing powder. We want to have nice, clean pictures there, embossed images. Now we're just going to heat it with the heat gun again and get that embossing powder to melt. It's really kind of satisfying to watch that embossing powder melt. I don't know if anybody else feels that way or not, but it just kind of, it's really very satisfying to watch it melt. So we've gotten the 3 embossed flamingos onto the peach cardstock. And now I'm going to attach the embossed flamingo cardstock to the front of the card topper with double-sided tape. So I'm just going to turn that over, stick on the double-sided tape, and then I will attach it to the card topper. I have a little bit of this leftover red backed double-sided tape. It's a little bit thicker than the double-sided tape that I've been using. The glue part of it is. I'm not sure if I quite like it, but it's the tail end of a little piece, so it won't last forever. So now I'm going to attach that peach with the flamingos to the page. And just kind of put it in the middle of the patterned paper on the card topper. So next I'm going to stamp the sentiment onto the card topper. I'm going to put this into my Stamparatus. And then I'm going to center the sentiment stamp onto the card where I want it. And then I'm going to close the lid of the Stamparatus to pick up the stamp. I'm going to ink that with my VersaMark ink again. We're going to emboss this as well. We're going to emboss it with the same gold embossing powder. I'm going to move that over to my stamp chamois to clean it off. And so now I'm going to sprinkle the gold shimmery embossing powder over it, over the sentiment. Then I'm going to pour off the excess and tap it to make sure it's good and clean. This time I didn't really have to go over it with the small paintbrush. It looked like most of the embossing powder ended up exactly where it was supposed to end up. So now I'm going to use my heat gun and I'm going to heat up that embossing powder until it melts. Once it is melted, it's ready, the card topper is ready to be mounted onto the front of the card base. So I'm going to mount that on there with my double-sided tape. One of the reasons I don't like this red double back tape is because the red part contains a lot of static and it sticks to you, so it's hard to get that red plastic that you pull off of your fingers sometimes. The kind I've been using before with the white backing, it doesn't do that, so I prefer that over this. So next I'm going to add some paper flowers. They're from the Recollections to the card with mini glue dots. I have no idea where I got the flowers. I actually got them in a box of stuff that I had picked up, of crafting supplies I had picked up from a neighbor. So I don't know for sure where they were purchased from. I know that you used to be able to get Recollections from Michael's, so I'm assuming that's where that's from originally. But it is pretty ancient. They don't even carry it anymore. I've searched all over their website trying to find it, and they do not carry it anymore. So like I said, I'm going to attach those flowers to the card with the mini glue dots. And while I'm doing that, let's talk about old scrapbooking and paper crafting supplies. How many of y'all have a ton of stuff that's over 5 years old? How about 10 years old? How about 20 years old? How many of y'all have things that are 20 years old that you've yet to use? I probably would be able to say that, except that when my husband and I first got married, we needed the extra room, and I sold off the majority of my paper crafting supplies. And so I have been slowly rebuilding my stash over the last 2.5 years. So I'm just curious. I know that in that stash of stuff that I had that I sold off, there were stuff that were quite old. I first started paper crafting in 1993 and started with scrapbooking, a simple scrapbooking kit that I purchased, I think from Walmart, and it was a Winnie the Pooh scrapbooking kit. That was my very first venture into paper crafting, and I was hooked ever since. It's surprising to see how far things have come since the very beginning. The first pages I created were almost they were just really sad looking. But I treasure them because they're the first ones I ever did, and they have pictures of my kid on them. And I love them. And I love Winnie the Pooh. So now I'm going to attach some self-adhesive pearls to the center of the flowers. I purchased them from our local Walmart. I think they're called Studio G brand. They're over there. I think they're $1 for a package over with the paper crafting supplies. But they're perfect for this kind of job, to put a little added texture and interest to the card itself. I'm attempting to use my craft tweezers to get them on there, and I am not doing very well with it. But I am trying because they stick to my fingers so bad they're hard for me to get into place properly. And when I do get them situated on the craft tweezers, I can get them right into place. See right there? Just right perfect. But I struggle with it because those little pearls want to slip off. And they want to stick upside down. And they don't want to cooperate. See? I'm having all kinds of trouble there. Between that and my fat fingers. There we go. Got it placed right. One more or two more? Two more it looks like. Two more little pearls to put onto the flower centers. See, sometimes I grab it just fine and it goes on. And other times it gives me all kinds of trouble. Final one. And again, it doesn't want to go on the tweezers, so I get smart and I flip the tweezers around and I drop it. And now I get it back into place. So next, I'm going to add some random dots to the card using the Ivory Seashell Crystal Drops by Nuvo. This adds a lot more texture and interest to the card. This is really the first time I've played with it in this sort of way. I've used it for like eyes on people and critters, but this is the first time I've just used it just to put kind of pearlized dots down. I really like it. I think it really looks nice, and it does add a lot of texture and interest to the card. It gives it that extra wow factor. So I'm just going to continue adding those to the card. So after I get them all on there, I need to let the dots dry for 3 to 4 hours, sometimes a little bit longer depending on the weather and the temperature. It took here in Texas about 3 hours, I think. And then we were done with the card. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. If you make a card with this video as an inspiration, I would love to see it. Please share a link to your project in the comments below or tag me on social media at Grace Journaling. I look forward to seeing what y'all are doing. Full description and supplies can be found on my blog at www.gracejournaling.com. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.